Okay guys, so in this video we are going to talk a little bit about rendering in React and just rendering things with vanilla JavaScript. So let's get into it. Now, the things that we're going to cover here is that we will simply look at a few examples of rendering something to a web page, and then we will reason a little bit about the results, because the thing is that for the longest time I've heard people talk so much about this. There's a term that we throw around a lot these days, and I don't really. I feel that this term is used out of proportion, and I think that you may hopefully maybe see my point once this video is finished. But let's just dive in, okay? So since React became a thing, speed has been one of the things that it's selling itself on. I remember that there were all these benchmark when Angular was starting to fall from grace and React was coming around, and everybody was saying that, oh, React is so much faster than Angular, yada yada yada, and I kind of went, yeah, okay, cool, speed is great, but honestly, guys, the reason why I love React has nothing to do with its rendering speed. I think that's a fairly I always made the argument to my coworkers and so forth when we were talking about all these discussions where when the trend was at its biggest, it is still going pretty strong, and everybody's talking about the performance, and I kind of go, well, Preact and all these tools, yeah, sure, they're performant, but what is performance to you? Like, at the end of the day, all you really care about is that the page for the user, once the assets are all on the user side of things, it doesn't really matter if you're running. It's very unlikely that performance is going to be an issue for you. You have to really try in order to make something unperformant. But if you really wanted to care about performance, you would go another route. So what I argue was that when I first started looking into React, I didn't really care about the speed, because I knew that the speed was going to be good enough so that the user doesn't perceive there being an issue with almost all the applications that I build. Because speed only really becomes an issue under very specific types of circumstances. It's not about running as quickly as you can humanly run. It's about running fast enough so it doesn't cause an issue for your consumer. And the thing with React is that it has things such as structure and a good working environment, all these other things that are much more important for application development, I argue, than something like speed. Because my thought was that if I really cared about speed, I would simply use the native JavaScript, because I found it very unbelievable that React would do some type of magic that made it faster at rendering JavaScript, or basically HTML, to the page than the native APIs. Now, I'm not with this video. I'm not trying to tell you that, oh, you should go and just go roll vanilla JavaScript, because there's all kinds of issues that come with using native JavaScript that React is solving for you. And the thing is that what I argue is that most people who use React should not, what I want to clarify with this video is not that React is bad. I want to clarify that if you're going for performance, if your main goal, if you have you have a bunch of master JavaScript programmers who are really good at what they do, and they know all the tips and tricks that they need in order to just do everything in vanilla JavaScript, that is going to be more performant, most likely, than React. React is a framework that I argue you should reach for if you want to build a solid project and consistently be able to add different developers to your project. Because the thing is that not every single person who works on a project is going to be like a master JavaScript person, and the odds of getting things wrong is higher if you just use the native APIs, I will argue. That's at least what I've seen. And that's what React, in my opinion, brings to the table. It gives you a structured working environment, something that most people can use in order to produce consistent results. So React, that's what I argue. It's the same type of deal you have with Ruby on Rails or Java or all these different frameworks that you might reach for, Laravel in PHP. These frameworks are the sort of thing that allows you to consistently produce good results. But if speed is your absolute primary concern, there are better ways to achieve that. So let's just look at a few examples. So I have a few examples here. I have one simple example, one a little bit fancier example, and then one like extremely corner case type of situation. But let's just walk through the code, all right? So here we have a very, very simple basic React application. I've already pre-built all the bundles. We're using Webpack and these configurations. I can just show you these configurations very quickly so that you can pause the video if you want and just look at the configurations. They are not important for our little demo here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab React DOM, we're going to create this little UL here with some elements, and then we're going to grab the root element on our page, which is just this basic, like this is the markup for absolutely every single example, so we don't have to touch on that anymore. Then we're going to use the console time function, which is basically just going to allow us to check the execution speed of everything that happens between time and time end. So we're going to see how fast React renders. Let's just have a look at that. So here we have, okay, so 31.9 milliseconds, 21, 26, 29. All right, 29. So, all right, we're getting a sensation of how fast React renders something to our page. Cool. So that's React for a simple example. Now let's look at the native stuff. All right, so we grab the root element. We have a few items here. So we set a time. And the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to loop through all the items. And we're going to create a list element. We're going to create a text node, which contains the string. We're going to append that to the list element, and we're going to simply return the li. And so here is our list of our list elements. We create a UL, and then we reduce basically over the UL, and we simply append all of the list elements to that list. And then we basically, we can actually move this up here to be completely fair. Let's do the appending as well. So this is now all one render, okay? So we're creating our list elements, adding them to the UL, and then we're logging out the time that takes. Let's have a look at what that means for us. Okay, so on average, like, do you see the difference? Like, we are magnitudes faster. Like, it's not even a competition in rendering speed. In pure rendering speed, this is it outperforms. It produces the same results, but React isn't even, it's not even a competition, guys. And this is kind of what I want you to, this is hopefully going to be the red thread that you see, and hopefully you're going to see that as things scale up, this issue becomes even more clear. Let's take a look at the Rerender example. So here we have just another React application, and this time we're going to push 100 elements to a list. We're going to create a UL, and we're going to map over this list of items and simply create a list element for each one of them. And as you can see here, we do basically the same thing, right? Let's go to React Rerender. So now we're at 39, 38, 39, and you can see this is our list of 100 elements. Okay, cool. Let's look at the native stuff. This is a little bit more elaborate, and I actually went one further on this one because this is why I call it Rerender. So let's just look at that. We get the root element, we create our items array, we push 100 items to that list, we get the time, we call the render function, which is this thing here, which is the exact same thing we saw earlier. All it does is it creates a UL with all of the list items inside of it. And then we append it to the root div. And then just for funsies, we clear all the children, which is this function up here. It takes an element, creates a copy of all the child nodes, and then it loops over all the nodes and removes each child, which basically is the same thing as just clearing the whole, like all the children from that element. And then we render again, so we get the UL again, and we append it again. So this is now doing twice the work of React. So React is doing it in, right, 61, 45, 30. Let's do it native. You see, this is not, like, React has nothing on the rendering speed of the native interfaces. Now, I'm not saying that this is like a universal truth or anything, but I hope that I'm illustrating the difference. If the only thing that was important was the rendering speed, then React would be pointless because it can't compete with the native interfaces for for just raw rendering. And that's what I'm telling people, that if you talk about like Preact and you talk about all these native renderings, like the speed is not the thing that React brings to the table, in my personal opinion. Let's look at the really kooky super example. All right, so now we have 100 elements, and then we do this deep nest. So what does deep nest do? Well, let's look at this example first. So we go through 100 elements, and then we call deep nest on each item, and we give it a number of 100. So what's going to happen here is that if this number is 0, we will simply return a span with whatever content we gave, and that's it. Otherwise, we are going to make a recursive call and call this function again with a smaller number. So basically, we are now recursively adding nested elements as we go through the render. Let's look what the results are. Let's click. Oh dear God. Can you see the time it takes? 300 something milliseconds to render out the page, and you can probably guess why that is happening, because we have a lot of span. I'm not going to click all the way through here, but you can imagine there's 100 spans nested inside of each other. So that is a lot of rendering. Now this is I admit this is an extreme corner case, but all right, we have a rough idea of the speed that this is producing, right? Now let's look at the native interface. So we grab the root, get our elements, 100 elements basically. We get the time, we render our UL, we append the child, well, basically the UL, and then we do this. This is just, this will make sense in just a moment. Just bear with me. This is just going to basically do a render once. So we clear the children once, we render, and we append once. So we're still doing twice the work of React now, just once. And the deep nest is doing, as you can see, it's basically the same thing. We create a span, we append the child of the content child if we reach 0, and otherwise we will simply do a recursive call. Right, basically the same code. Okay, let's just have a look at what happens now. This is doing twice the work of React. And 68, 69, 40, like, do you it's not even funny how much of a difference it is. Notice the delay on the screen as well. Do you see the, like, it is magnitudes of difference. Like, this doesn't even affect it. Now, I've actually just played around with it. This is what I wanted to show you. I've actually looked at it, and this entire thing, this re-render, is roughly 15 times faster in the native interfaces. Now we're up on the same type of numbers that React is with the native interface. So what I wanted to show you with this is that if speed was the thing you were going for, it's just raw rendering speed, then the native interfaces of the browser will probably be a better bet. But the issue is that you don't really like the core issue is not the performance. The biggest issue with using native JavaScript is that it's very tricky for you to make a really big scalable project, and that's the thing that React brings to the table. But if you have a very simple, lightweight application that is not, or rather, if you just have a few components or something of that nature, you're actually better off just using native JavaScript. It's going to outperform React. So what I want you to take away from this little video of mine is that if you should really think about using React, only really use these or Angular or any of these frameworks, just only use them if you're sure that you're going to have a fairly large project with a lot of complexity, and that you're going to really need a structured way of working so that you and your coworkers and so forth can maintain the project over time. But if that's not the case, and if you feel confident enough to use native JavaScript, then use the native interfaces. Have a great day.